Hi and welcome back to my channel for another loose watercolor flower painting. I'm working again in that watercolor journal I'm using. It has I believe it's 30% cotton paper in it. It's from a German manufacturer. And I really like this journal because the paper is not too thick and you have many pages, and I think for a journal the paper is really nice quality. I'm starting my flowers by scribbling them just in kind of a circular shape or a half circular shape with the Derwent Inktense pencils. These are water-soluble pencils. You can use any kind of watercolor pencil. I'm holding the pencil at the very end to make sure to get a loose line, and I don't want to be perfect. I just want to create a kind of an impression of my flower arrangement. I used reds and yellows for the flowers itself, and I used a green to create some leaves around. I now go in with my watercolors, and first I'm wetting the flower and then I go in with the paints. I don't use a round brush today. I'm using this special shaped brush. It's called Katzalon and it's from the house brand of my German online art supply store. The color I'm using here is, I believe, quinacridone gold. It's one of my favorite colors, especially when you mix it with a pink. The color palette I'm using contains different brands. I have a video how I set up my palette because I bought a color mixing book, and with this book I set up my watercolor palette so that I will be able to mix most of the colors in this book. I will link up that video in the top right corner info box. And as always, I just try to stay very loose. I try not to cover up everything, always leaving some white areas or white space to create highlights on the flowers, so that I get more dimension and not just a flat painting. And also, as always, I'm wetting parts of the background and then connecting this to my flowers, and so the paint bleeds into the background and gives me a very loose look. While it's still wet, I'm going in with the Derwent pencils again, and because of the wetness, the pigments release really intense and give me very interesting textures. And as I said, I try to be super loose. There is nothing perfect with these flowers. If you don't have a real good idea for a composition, I recommend using a reference photo just to have an idea where to place your flowers and leaves. I'm going in with a water-soluble graphite pencil to add a center to my flowers. For the leaves here, I'm using the dusk yellow, I believe it is, from Van Gogh. It's a granulating color and it's really beautiful. I would love to have some of the Daniel Smith granulating colors, but whenever I put them in my cart, I always delete them because they are super expensive, and then I'm always not sure which color I should buy, and finally I never bought any of the colors. Maybe in the future. I'm going in with a darker mixture. I believe here I mixed that dusk yellow with the ultramarine blue. I'm not 100% sure, but it's not important which colors you're using. Just play with what you have. You always have to experiment a little bit which color combinations you like and which you don't like, and it's always a bit hard for me because I'm not a big fan of green, especially not of the typical green. I really like olive green and a bluish green, but not a typical leaf green. I'm sketching out the leaves with that water-soluble graphite, and you can see that I get a really interesting effect because of the wet paper. I always vary with my pressure, so I get thinner and thicker lines. As always, you will find a blog post linked up in the video description, and there I have uploaded some close-up images so you can have a closer look. My flowers have dried and I go in with a second layer. I believe you always need more layers when you want to create a dimensional effect. You often see loose watercolor flowers that are painted with just one layer, and of course they are really pretty and you have a nice illustrated look, but I prefer more dimension, and therefore you have to add at least 2 layers or maybe 3, and that is the part that can be a bit difficult with watercolors, and that is also the part where you need to try and maybe make mistakes and also learn because of experimenting, and that's also a really fun part. And especially when you're painting loose, you can't do big mistakes, and it's not a very big painting. It's not a painting where that took me hours. It's just a quick sketch, and when I ruin it, it's no problem, but it really helps to learn. I'm intensifying the shadows on my leaves to make the flowers pop even more. I'm also adding some darker lines to the flowers itself to give them more dimension. And as always, to finish my painting up, I let it dry and then add in some watercolor splatters. The splatters loosen the painting up, and I really like the look of it. And here you can see the finished spread. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope we will see us next time. Bye.